Leung Chun-ying promises to address illegal structures controversy. Convicted Macau gangster freed from jail. And Israel under fire over plans to expand Jewish settlements.
Good evening. Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying has refused to say whether he would appear before legislators to answer questions about the illegal structure scandal. Leung did say today he would respond to any remaining questions in an appropriate time. Etienne Smith reports.
Speaking in Hainan today, where he was attending a regional forum, Chief Executive Leung Chun-ying said he'd wait for the right time before explaining further. He said questions remain about the illegal structures, even though he had made a number of statements in the past week relating to the matter. Over the past few days, he said, I've already answered the new questions that arose. As for the rest of the queries, I will answer them at an appropriate time and in an appropriate manner. He also said his representatives would continue to hold talks with the Buildings Department after this weekend to discuss some of those questions. Critics say Leung has not offered the whole truth about the illegal structures. The chief executive has yet to say whether he'll appear before the Legislative Council to answer members' questions about the illegal structures at his home. Leung did not answer further questions after returning to Hong Kong later in the day. Chief Secretary for Administration Carrie Lam also did not say whether her boss would appear before LegCo. The LegCo House Committee earlier invited Leung to appear and to give an account of the illegal structures. It's been a week and the committee has not received his reply. LegCo President Tsang Yok-sing says it's up to Leung to decide. As to whether he should come, Tsang said, all I can say is that quite a few legislators think he should, but in the end whether he comes is up to him. Tsang also said it's still too early to say if the controversy would strain the relationship between the government and lawmakers. Etienne Smith, TVB News.
Convicted Macau triad boss Wang Kok-koi is a free man tonight. The man, better known as Broken Tooth, has been released from prison after serving a jail term of nearly 14 years. As Evelina Leung reports, many believe Macau will not plunge back into chaos after Wang's release.
The notorious Wang Kok-koi, also known as Broken Tooth, left Koloan prison early this morning. He went back to his home in Taipa, accompanied by his brother. Wang's mother says she's happy that her son is finally home. 57-year-old Wang was known to be the head of Macau's 14K triad, said to be the largest organized criminal gang in the enclave in the 1990s. At that time, Macau was hit by vicious turf wars among rival triad gangs in the battle over the domination of casinos. The violence included a shootout at a casino opening in 1997 that injured 3 people, and a bomb blast that destroyed the car of Macau's police chief in 1998. Wang was arrested following the explosion and was later found guilty of gang-related crimes, including loan sharking and money laundering. He was sentenced to a 15-year jail term in 1999, a month before Macau's handover. Wang appealed against the sentence, and his prison term was eventually reduced to 13 years and 10 months. According to media reports, authorities have been preparing for Wang's release, and mainland officials have warned the former triad boss to behave after he walked free. In the past decade or so, the Macau government has moved to open up the enclave's gaming industry. One academic we talked to today doesn't believe violence will erupt again.
Industry, in terms of its organization, would be internationally recognized, and also the transparency of the industry and the transactions between those gaming agent and the customer are more well regulated by the government.
Other analysts also believe Wang will most likely find that he has lost much of his power. Evelina Leung, TVB News.
The United States says it's deeply disturbed that the nephew of blind Chinese activist Chen Guangcheng was sentenced to more than 3 years in jail. Washington says the trial and sentencing of Chen Ke-gui lacked basic due process and was a violation of China's own commitments to respect human rights.
He was convicted in a summary trial in which he was not fully represented by legal counsel of his choosing. He didn't have an opportunity to present his own defense.
Yesterday, a court in Shandong province sentenced Chen Kegui to 3 years and 3 months in jail. He was charged after using knives to fend off local officials who burst into his home on April 27th, the day after they discovered his blind uncle had escaped from 19 months of house arrest in Shandong. Chen Guangcheng later fled to the American embassy in Beijing and eventually made his way to the United States.
Israel has announced plans to expand Jewish settlements in the occupied territories. It follows an upgrade of the Palestinian status at the United Nations. As Jameson Wong reports, the Israeli move has been criticized by both the Palestinians and the U.S.
Israel has said the UN vote giving the Palestinians non-member observer state status hurts peace. Now the Jewish state has made what's widely seen as a retaliatory move that critics say also hurts peace. Less than 24 hours after the landmark vote, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government approved the construction of 3,000 homes in Jewish settlements, similar to the ones seen here in the West Bank and East Jerusalem. The Palestinians want their future state to include the West Bank, East Jerusalem, and Gaza.
Our settlement policy, our construction activity in the settlements, it's only according to our national interest. We try not to provoke, not the Palestinians, not the others, but we think that it's our right to define our capital and to decide about constructions, about our view on our security issues.
The Palestinians cried foul, calling it an immediate provocation following the UN vote. They have insisted that settlement building stop before negotiations with Israel would resume. The Israeli announcement also puts the United States in an awkward position. The U.S. and Israel were among the handful of countries casting a no vote against upgrading the Palestinians' status. But now Washington has spoken out against the latest Israeli move.
So particularly in light of today's announcement, let me reiterate that this administration, like previous administrations, has been very clear with Israel that these activities set back the cause of a negotiated peace.
Clinton met with senior Israeli and Palestinian officials yesterday to try to get them back to the negotiating table. But what happened this week has once again fueled mistrust between the two sides, making a peace deal ever so elusive. Jameson Wong, TVB News.
Thousands of Egyptians remain camped out in Cairo's Tahrir Square today to protest against President Mohamed Morsi after an Islamist-led assembly raced through the approval of a new constitution. The latest crisis follows demonstrations earlier in the week sparked by Morsi's decision to grant himself sweeping new powers. The Muslim Brotherhood and other Islamists planned their own massive rally today, but have promised to stay well clear of anti-government demonstrations in a bid to avoid any violent confrontations. Thousands of Egyptians flocked to central Cairo's Tahrir Square yesterday to join a million-man protest dubbed the Victim's Dream. It came just hours after a draft constitution was approved by Islamist allies of President Mohamed Morsi during a rushed all-night session without the participation of liberals and Christians. Thousands of protesters marched from several locations in Cairo, converging in Tahrir Square. It was the second mass demonstration against Morsi in less than a week. The protests were sparked by the president's decrees a week ago, granting himself virtually dictatorial powers. The sudden adoption of the constitution and the presidential edicts have tapped into a feeling among many Egyptians that Morsi and the Muslim Brotherhood are using their election victories to monopolize power and set up a new one-party state. The opposition must now decide how to deal with a nationwide referendum on the new constitution, likely to come in mid-December. Analysts say they can boycott the vote to protest against what critics call a deeply flawed charter, or try to use the anger at Morsi to rally the public to reject it in the referendum. Morsi says his new powers are temporary and will remain in effect only until the referendum.
And still ahead in the news, more inquiries about local travel agency wrapping up a successful Movember campaign. And the Duchess of Cambridge shows off her hockey skills in high heels.
You and Will in a hotel room.
Will, me, 4 lawyers and a mediator in a businessman's hotel.
Forbidden love.
2 hours and a bottle of wine, we can settle this. So you and her.
Cheers.
Tuesday night, The Good Wife at 8:30 on Pearl.
Invesco, serving retirement needs for Hong Kong people for over 30 years. Whatever the climate, we're committed to looking after your retirement plans. As one of the leading global investment managers, we strive to seek more opportunities to continue pursuit of performance excellence and to help you achieve your retirement goals. Invesco, your trustworthy MPF partner.
Robbie Williams, Take the Crown, new solo album, includes the first single, Candy. 2 versions of CD, available now at HMV.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Oppan Gangnam Style.
Power Hits Summer 2012. CD out now.
I trust my senses. I let inspiration speak with my hands and my GX1. Inspired by a touch, Lumix GX1 system camera.
Panasonic, ideas for life.
Welcome back. The Travel Industry Council has now received more than 90 inquiries from clients of tour agency SIG Holiday. The agency's license has temporarily been revoked after it shut down 5 of its branches. About 320 customers were affected, and the money involved now totals $550,000. And it was business as usual at the company's headquarters in Cheung Sha Wan. Some of those affected came in for refunds. The Travel Industry Council is advising customers to hold on to their receipts to reclaim their money. The Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority hopes to lower the administration fees of MPF accounts to about 1%. Currently, it averages 1.74%. However, the authority's non-executive director, John Poon, said this can only be achieved if the trustees are willing to work with them. Evelina Leung reports.
A consultancy report commissioned by the Mandatory Provident Fund Schemes Authority has proposed measures to try to reduce the scheme's administration fees. In an interview with TVB